there's like a thing I have to say to introduce this one, which is that if you haven't seen the film Interstellar and you plan to, like, leave now. Just that was my disclaimer. Now I don't apologise at all for the content of this poem. And yeah, if you haven't seen Interstellar and you don't plan to, just so you know, it's kind of like Inception in space. And if you haven't seen Inception, to be honest, I really don't know where you've been. And I guess that's all I need to say about this. I haven't done it in a long time, but I kind of felt the need to today for some reason. And it's called What My Life Would Be Like If It Was Written by Christopher Nolan. So a year ago today, I was having sex. I'm sorry if that's crude or inappropriate, but it's true. I was having sex with you. I know I was there. And I know for a fact I've got the date right because I have a certificate. Not for the sex, that'd be weird, but for the reason we were having middle of the night celebration sex. That kind of all-consuming consummation that only happens in films and studio flats in northwest London on top of the duvet on your side of the bed on November the 14th, 2013. That kind of rough but real sex that in retrospect wasn't between us at all, but was for me, because of me, and all about me. And no, I don't mean it like that. I'm sure you got yours. If I'm going on an average, you probably enjoyed it more than I did, but that's okay. If I remember rightly, it wasn't about that. I needed you, and as always, you obliged. But now, November 1 year on, and I'm staring at that date framed in a room I've been staying in since I ripped you from my side, like it holds that night in perfect conservation. As if our bodies combine around each printed number, stamping our reckless sensuality onto paper to remain forever there in golden-framed remembrance of us. I mean, there aren't many objects in this room that immediately take me back to such a specific time, place, and action. Not dated, anyway. There's no messages in the books that line my walls, dropping to the floor with the gravity of that specific memory. Sorry, that was a reference to something I mentioned in the bit before the title. Actually, I'd like to go back to the introduction to this if I can and remind myself to stop before I start. To tell the me that's talking now that she might regret what she's about to say, or if she doesn't listen by this point, has already said. But I'm in full flow now, so I don't listen to me, and I remain outside myself looking in, unaware which me it is that's talking and who it is I'm warning, and I want to tell you something new. But someone once told me that every story that exists has already been told, which makes anything I say to you already seem old, but surely that's only true of fiction, and no one could make this up, however hard they try. A few days ago, I watched a man travel further than most minds can comprehend, only in order to return to a moment in his life over and over. And granted, I was watching from the safety of a cinema seat, but that didn't stop me from going back in my mind to the moment where I kissed you suggestively, rousing you from sleep with the knowledge that you would give me release for the excitement that I brought home in a frame that would eventually commemorate something that hadn't yet happened, unaware that it would be in our most intimate moment that I would start to pull away at light year speed. And I might as well be as far as Saturn right now as I relive that moment and this simultaneously. In the film, the man is both himself and the self that he was, both the catalyst and the consequence. And I understand that paradox as I live both the action and the result. As I take you in my arms over and over while the other me, the older me, whose hands have got used to holding themselves, stands over a double bed that she no longer owns and shouts at a couple that no longer exist to stop before they start. You are making a mistake that can never be undone, but by doing this you are unraveling a well-tied knot of her loving you because you love her and consoling her when she doesn't win. And this is the moment when everything changes and you could stay the same if you want to. But I might as well be screaming this in fucking binary because I'm ignored like I exist only in a time loop, which reminds me of a conversation I had with my father once. I'm sat outside the bathroom, back to wall, while he shaves or brushes his teeth or something not relevant to the memory. He is telling me that time travel is impossible, and I'm arguing back in an 8-year-old way, but he wins, and I laugh, and we go for breakfast in the market behind Liverpool Street. Or that could be a separate memory amalgamated together for the sake of clinging on to faded times gone by. And as child me sits outside a bathroom I haven't used since, I ignore myself, my future self, standing inches away, clinging to my father like a limpet that he is unaware of as he wins our argument and laughs and takes me for breakfast, all the while oblivious to the fact that he is holding the hands of his daughter then and now. One as real as ever, and the other existing only in a metaphor that I am simultaneously sharing on stage years in the future. Future me, which for you is the me that's talking now, delves deep into her memory to both keep her father alive for a moment in time and simultaneously prove him wrong. Time travel does exist. Because if it didn't, then I couldn't be both there and now. And if I couldn't be there, I would forget him and he would continue to not exist. And so I believe in science fiction. Not as a concept to progress the human race, but to keep my father alive. Which sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, it's the storyline to a film I saw, which means this is beginning to sound a lot like fiction and therefore a story that has already been told. Which, of course, it has. Last November. A year ago today, I wrote a piece about my father. About it being 12 years since he passed and how in the future I would move past the point of no return. And now it's like time got stuck and I'm both past that point and living it over and over and nothing has changed. Like the rings of Saturn, I spin around this subject every year until I'm dizzy with thoughts of death. And every version of me is caught in a loop of everything that will ever be. And sometimes it feels like I'm floating through space with nothing to stop me from falling through a black hole of all the things I've lost. And I don't even have Anne Hathaway to keep me company. Or my father. I don't even have you because we did have the sex that started all this. And I don't have enough special effects to recreate our fireworks. All I have is a cinema stub for a film I saw, a muddled and difficult to prove definition of time travel, and a framed certificate dated a year ago today. And I wanted this to be more coherent. I wanted to represent the relevance of the things we take for granted, and I wanted to somehow comprehend how all the years that roll by take me further from the people I've lost, and I wanted to tie it all together neatly, like a story, so that even if it does go on, it ends somehow. And I wanted to make it rhyme. But I don't think I did any of those things. I think I'll leave that kind of stuff to Christopher Nolan in future. He seems to know what he's doing after all. Thank you. Thank you.